Hey, welcome to our Dead Talk, the place where we discuss all shows and comics within the Walking Dead universe. I'm Colleen.
And I'm Jeremy. Today's podcast will be discussing The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 1, Episode Number 2, titled Alouette. It aired on September 17th, 2023.
Here's the plot for today's episode. Daryl, Isabel, Laurent, and Sylvie face trouble on the road. Isabel remembers the day that the Hungry Ones appeared. Laurent struggles to fit in.
Before we start, we just want to give a big spoiler warning. We're going to be talking about the entire episode during this podcast, so obviously there are going to be spoilers if you have not watched it yet. You have been warned.
So welcome back to our second Daryl episode.
We're excited to talk about it. This is one of our favorite episodes so far.
I really love getting the backstory to different characters. I really like that, especially when it's the beginning of the apocalypse and where everyone was when it all went crazy.
And this is one of the few instances where the character seems really smart at the beginning of the episode. You see it a lot in a lot of survival horror movies where the character is doing things that you're like, that's so unreal. Who would do that? That's so stupid. Why would they do that? And we're watching the main character in this episode, and I'm thinking, yeah, she's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really happy to see that.
Me too. Yeah, so I'm really excited to break this one apart a little bit and get into the nitty-gritty of it. It was a fun episode. I'm really digging this Daryl show.
Yeah, it's very good. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's watch.
This, in my opinion, was one of the coolest opening parts to an episode. I like that it started kind of calm, where she's standing out on a balcony, and you could tell she's in some sort of skyscraper in the city of Paris. And you can see that she's obviously at a party. Mm-hmm. And then she goes inside, and it's really cool, slow motion dancing, and you just hear the thumping of the music and stuff. And then slowly but surely things start turning.
Yeah, I
really like that.
I think you originally called it, and we get to see how much of a nun Isabel is not.
Right. That's one of the things I wanted to say too. Is wow, that is a total difference from what you would think a nun would be, at least before they decided to become a nun. But wow. Yeah. Pickpocket, drug user. Yeah. At
first I thought she was a prostitute.
That's what I thought. But... That's what I thought at first too, yeah. And then once we saw at the end when she came out from the party room and she was waiting for the elevator and she had all that stuff in her purse, she obviously stole the credit card.
It all.
And the watch and stuff.
But yeah, I liked how before she gets into the elevator, you hear some screams in the party, which you called. You're like, oh, I wonder if this is when it's going to start going down.
Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe somebody OD'd or something like that and then turned.
That's a very good possibility.
Without somebody knowing.
Yeah, that's a very good possibility, especially with all the drug use that was going on in there. I really like when shows do this because us as viewers, we know the kind of show we're watching. We know what's going to end up happening. She doesn't know yet as her character. She doesn't know what crap storm is about to start, but we do. So we're always like, when's it gonna happen? Yeah. And we're listening for it. And then when the door closes and she goes out towards the elevator, it gets really quiet, and then someone else exits, and then the door opens again and you can hear the screams. So it was like, oh, there it goes, and then after she leaves the building and she goes out into the city, it's even more.
Yep. Watching this show, like you said, we know where the story's gonna go and how everything plays out typically. So we can always say, oh, yeah, that's how I would do. This is what I would do in this situation, blah, blah, blah. But for the people in the show, this is their first time handling this kind of stuff. And as far as people handling that kind of chaos in the beginning of an apocalypse like that, she kept so calm.
Yeah, she did.
Which is amazing. That was really cool to see her just calmly walking away from all the crap that was happening, which was so cool.
Yeah, she's in the middle of a lot of this stuff. She's in the thick of it, but she's also still kind of keeping her distance, and she's just calculating, what the hell is happening right now? But she's just watching. And I know the first time we watched this, you could see her go down to get onto the subway. We call it the subway, in America, but I think it's the tube in other places.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think maybe the underground.
Transit.
Yeah. So when she goes down those stairs, I'm like, please do not get on the subway. Oh my God, do not do that.
Yeah.
And then I love that scene where it comes rolling in and you can see all the passengers on there.
Yeah.
That most of them are turning and they're trying to bash the windows. I couldn't tell if they were bashing the windows because they're trying to get out or if they're bashing the windows because they're already a walker.
I thought maybe some of the walkers were smacking survivors' heads off the glass, but I'm not sure.
It's a good possibility too.
That was pretty brutal.
Yeah, and then even you can see how some of it starts where, I think that was the scene after when she probably left the subway area, because then even walkers were coming down the stairs and they were in where she was waiting to get on the subway. And then when she went back up to the ground, she saw like the worker that was there. He was like a server, like a waiter kind of thing, and he was getting attacked. Yep. Oh man. And then the one guy that got hit by the car, he came back to life.
And she's just like calmly like, okay, well, I mean, obviously freaked out.
Oh yeah.
But not freaking out.
Yeah, she's keeping her calm, which is like the best thing you could do in an emergency situation, because it's like you are freaking out a little bit, but you're not going completely berserk.
She was assessing everything.
She was.
You can tell, like, she's like, okay, I'm not gonna run. I don't need to run, but I'm gonna briskly walk over here.
Unless she still has enough drugs in her system where it's kind of keeping her a little bit more calm. Maybe that's part of it too. And then we see the scene where a car comes up and smacks the one walker and then gets out of the car on the driver's side and runs around and gets her in on the passenger side. So at this point, we didn't know who he was, but we kind of assume, especially as you watch later on, that it's her boyfriend.
Yes.
All right, let's get back in.
Yep.
I like when they do this with shows where they go back to the first day that everything happened to Isabel, and then they're back to present day too.
Yeah.
Especially when they
juxtaposition.
Yeah, and I do also like when they make it obvious that it's a time jump too, because sometimes it's like, wait, is this back in time or is this present day? But this, they make it pretty obvious when it is.
Yeah, everybody's filthy in the present.
That's very true.
But the show Isabel, yeah, right, Isabel?
Mm-hmm, Isabel.
Yeah, Isabel, stashing some of her goods. Was she getting any out, or was she just stashing them all? I can't remember.
That's a good question. I'm not sure, because we did see in episode 3,
yeah,
spoiler alert for episode 3,
yeah,
there is something to do with this.
Yes. Yeah, I won't say
Yeah.
anything. But her boyfriend picks her up. They go to her apartment. They meet a little girl
Outside, yeah.
outside, and Isabel tells her to go home, be safe, etc., etc. Ominous look from the little kid. They go to pick up Isabel's sister,
Well, going back to that little girl.
who isn't feeling well.
Oh, the sister. Going back to that little girl, I would be a little concerned knowing that you know the child too, and knowing that what you've seen already from your past couple hours of experience with what's currently happening, even though you don't know what's happening just yet, but you know enough crazy stuff is happening where I would feel more comfortable walking my little neighbor home really quickly, telling my boyfriend, hold on a second, I need to walk her home, and then just run her back as fast as I can and then go up and get my stuff.
Yeah.
She's what, like 10, 11, 12 years old, if
Something like
that.
that.
So how much can she really do to fight off whatever is currently happening right now, which Isabel still doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
But that's my little annoyance with that.
It didn't look like the chaos had reached her apartment just at that point, so maybe that's what Isabella was thinking. Like, yeah, just go home. You're good, but stay inside, you know?
That's true. That's a very good possibility. But yeah, then Isabel goes upstairs and gets some of her belongings and tries to get her sister, who's seeming to be sick in bed.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we didn't know whether she was bit at this point. We'll find out what happens. We know what happens, but we'll let you know when we cross that bridge.
Yes. And you might also know if you've watched this whole episode, but we'll hold off on saying. But I like that they're going back and forth to present day and back in the day, and they go back to when Daryl and Isabel and Laurent and Sylvie are on the road, and they're looking at the map trying to kind of get their game plan going, because it seems as though with them having to leave the monastery last episode, their plan kind of changed. And I don't know if that's... Well, Isabel even said the plan has changed. And I don't know if Isabel is thinking that it changed because she remembers they have a huge map in the office with what their path would be. And if anyone's smart enough that goes in there, they'd probably assume, oh, this highlighted path must be the path they're going to go on.
Gotta be smart.
Yeah. So she must be thinking, well, we can't do that path anymore, so we have to do a different route type of thing. That's my thought. I don't know at all if that's what Isabel's thinking.
I'm not sure, but it kind of, now that you say that, I kind of think maybe that, I'm hoping that's what she's thinking.
Me too. So I don't know if she's still not going the same path that they had written up on that wall, or if they end up getting to the same path. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like Daryl wants to go to Paris, but she's kind of against the idea of it.
Yeah, I'm also wondering if she's just like too many bad memories there.
That's a good possibility too.
It's getting close to back when she was not such a good person. Maybe it was a life that she didn't like.
Yeah, so even Walking Dead aside, or just zombies aside, she just might not want to go back because of, her previous lifestyle. Yeah,
but they're going through a small town, and their donkey gets spooked all of a sudden. And always trust an animal's instincts, honestly, especially. Yeah. If you don't trust your own instincts, definitely trust an animal's instincts.
Well, it seems like Daryl thought the same exact thing, like, oh, he must sense something that I don't just yet.
Yeah. And naturally, a bunch of walkers start coming out. And this is one of those things that I feel like this was pretty rushed. But Daryl instantly sacrifices the donkey. Maybe he did think that the donkey was just going to get away. But how are you going to find him?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But it seemed a little rushed that he jumped to, all right, sacrifice the donkey.
Unless it's because he's thinking about how quickly it can turn bad, and it would be Daryl and the other 3 people, especially including a kid. So maybe he's just thinking, well, we would do better on foot than we would when all these walkers come around us. But still, we've all seen Daryl fight. He could easily take out all these walkers. Unless, I don't know, is he getting old? Is he getting tired? Is he kind of like,
I don't feel like taking out all these walkers. Get out of here, you donkey.
Yeah, right? So I don't know. I don't know if he's just getting tired or what, but I'm sure he could use a good sleeping.
Oh, yeah.
This is an interesting little scene here where they're walking and they're having a conversation. And people keep talking about Daryl, like, do you have any children? You obviously don't have children.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't know who Daryl is.
Yeah,
like,
he's a big father figure to a lot of the characters back home.
Yes, it's kind of irking me a little bit. And because Daryl had just mentioned, you know, you got to tell him the truth. And then Isabel's like, you don't have kids, do you? And I agree.
You don't have kids, do you?
And I do agree there are some things you should keep from children and stuff. It's like if they don't need to know, why tell them, depending on the situation. But at the same time, I think there are instances where they should learn a little bit of some stuff. And I think that's where Daryl's coming from, where I think we spoke about this in a previous episode, where Daryl does talk to them like they're an adult too, to a certain degree. You know, because it's like he just sees them as normal people, not just little kids that can't handle it.
Little people.
Yeah, little people. How cool was it, though, when they're walking and then all of a sudden Daryl's just like, wait, because there was a freaking whistle that happened. Yeah. Do you think his brain instantly went to Negan?
Probably.
Especially all the PTSD, I'm sure, that came with
Negan.
That. Honestly. Well, I probably would have thought of that instantly, and I would have loved to have seen what really went through Daryl's head, because if he was instantly thinking about the Negan situation, because there was a lot of trauma that happened with the Negan situation. It was pretty neat that they were whistling the Alouette song.
Fun fact, it is a technique that some hunters use when they're tracking an animal, and if the animal just keeps on walking, you can give it a little and they'll stop to check it out. They'll look around, and they'll give you time to take a shot.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not a hunter, so I did not know that.
Yeah. But doesn't matter if your aim's off like that guy. He completely missed, which, you know, good for us. But
yeah, I was going to say, that's a good thing for us. And
obviously was not Daryl Dixon.
I was going to say, and Daryl's like, I'm the crossbow champion.
Yeah.
All right, now Daryl's chasing whoever just was shooting at him, and he was about to take a shot at someone that was shooting at Daryl, and then he gets clonked on the head.
Yep, clonked.
So we'll see what happens. So we've learned who these people were that were shooting at Daryl, and the rest of them.
Yeah, it's a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a group of kids at an old French
preschool.
Yeah.
They're calling him Father Daryl.
Which I don't know if anybody's seen the movie The Last Samurai. It reminds me of the scene where one of the characters introduces Tom Cruise's character as the President of the United States.
Oh, really?
Because he panicked.
Because he panicked, you said?
He panicked. He didn't know how to introduce it. He's like, don't you know who this is? This is the President of the United States. And of course, Tom Cruise at this point speaks Japanese, so he knows what he said.
Oh.
He's like, really? The President of the United States? It's like, I panicked.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, we watched that last year, I think.
I love that movie.
That was the first time I ever saw it. I totally forgot about that. But yeah, that was a really good movie. So, movie suggestion. Last Samurai with Tom Cruise.
Yeah. I highly recommend it.
It's pretty cool that these kids are able to survive all together.
Yeah.
And it seems like that one girl that came down that spiral staircase, she obviously seems to be the leader, because we learned that the older woman, who they consider to be all of their parents, basically, she's been sick the past 6 months.
6 months. Bedridden.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty amazing. She looks very old.
She does.
And to be bedridden for 6 months, especially in this world, you that's like unbelievable.
And
it's a miracle.
It is. And for the kids to be at least knowledgeable enough to somehow take care of her.
Yeah.
Because so far it seems like the girl leader that has taken over, she might be about the oldest one.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't sure if I was going to like her at first, but she wound up being really cool.
Yeah, I like her a lot. She seems pretty cool.
Yeah. I thought she was going to be a real B-word.
Well, you kind of have to be a leader, and especially you're in charge of a lot of little ones that you have to keep them safe.
Yeah.
So I would understand if she was a little bit of a B. But so far she seems cool.
But she is not a bee.
She is not a bee.
Although a little bit of a busy bee.
She's a very busy bee. I like their little dinner setup here, and it looks like they're having some sort of soup or chili or something for dinner. And really, Daryl, does he not realize he's being that slurpy with his food? It is pretty cute, though, that all the kids are watching them and they start giggling.
And they start doing the same thing.
They
They're
did.
Like, you know, yeah, we're going to do that too.
Yeah.
We like this.
Screw manners. We're just going to slurp
Yeah.
our food. I don't know how any of you are that are listening, but I'm not a fan of being able to hear people eat. So
So this was torture for Call. I didn't care.
I'd be like, Daryl, shut up! Use a spoon and don't slurp.
No. The only French that you... No!
And I mean, I love Daryl, but come on, man. Learn how to eat properly. I kind of felt bad for Laurent, though, when he sat down, and he is a little bit of an odd ball, a little bit. It could be because of his
he's
sheltered. Yeah.
For sure.
But he sat down innocently next to one of the other kids, started talking and trying to strike up conversation as best as he knows how with other kids his age. And the kid basically attacked him, saying that that's not his chair, that's his brother's chair, and he needs to get out.
Laurent totally could have asked, like, is anybody sitting here? Can I sit here? You know, maybe he should have did that. But at the same time, yeah, the kid definitely didn't have to jump down his throat about it.
Definitely
but,
not.
You know, I think the kid is probably scared.
Oh,
for
absolutely.
his brother. He doesn't want to seem like somebody's replacing him already.
That, and obviously all these children that are here, they're orphans, so he probably doesn't want to lose his brother or even think about his brother being gone like his parents are.
Yeah.
So, I get it. But also, dang.
Damn.
Yeah. You're like, damn. I'm like, dang. Alright, we're going to see what happens next. So the next scene, we're sitting there. We're at the table with the kids, and the little one, Laurent, he's saying that his donkey is wandering around eating apples.
Yeah.
And it kind of sounds like the other kids are starting to chuckle at him, like making fun of him.
Yeah, like they just don't believe that.
Yeah. It's sad. It does show that they did shelter Laurent a little bit, and now that he's with a bunch of other kids, he's maybe going to be made fun of for some of his beliefs a little bit.
He's a little bit behind.
Yeah.
On the whole social hierarchy thing.
Yeah. Definitely not as far as smarts go, though, because seems like a very book-smart kid.
Yeah. I think everybody else sees that he's a little naive. He doesn't really know the world as it is.
And then we learn that there is a person that has been raiding the stuff that the children have.
Yeah, he's been hoarding.
Yeah.
All the materials, all the goods that they need.
And I think for Daryl, it's reminding him of Negan a little bit, where Negan would go to all the different communities and say that they needed to just give him a quarter or like a certain percentage of their fines that they would have. And it was like for no stupid reason besides it was just Negan, you know? Yeah. And I don't think that's really fair, but that's what it seems like this person is doing. But he might not be as... Not that even Negan was that understanding of other people's time of finding supplies, because there were times that they would go out and find supplies and they would find a bunch of stuff and then they would find absolutely nothing other times. So I don't know yet how this other person has been compared to Negan, but it seems to me like a Negan situation in that sense anyway.
I gotcha. I want to point out sort of a darker side of Daryl, kind of, is that once he found out that this guy who's hoarding all the goods and everything, once he finds out that he has horses, he kind of manipulates them into telling them where it is. She doesn't want to tell them where this castle is, where all the goods are. And then Daryl brings out the, well, don't you want to save your teacher? Don't you want to save your teacher? I can get the drugs there or whatever. And he already knows. He after seeing her, 6 months, old woman in bed, she's on borrowed time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he knows it, but he kind of pulls the heartstrings of the girl who's running the show at this point, and says, "Well, look, if you show me how to get there, I can get the drugs for you, so you can save your teacher." Even though he knows it's not going to work.
Yeah, Daryl's typically not like that, especially with children. Like, he's not going to use them in that sense, but he does see he needs a horse or a donkey or something, and he was told that this person has that. But sometimes you have to do it. And really, the kids will make out well, too, because I'm sure, besides just getting the medication for their teacher, he'd also be able to get some other supplies back for them. And maybe even scare the guy, too. It
was totally a good plan. Like, it's super good. But I just wanted to, like, point that out. I thought that was, like, ooh, that was kind of a dark side of Daryl there. The next scene, we go into... They're going into a room, and Daryl doesn't know what's going on. Kid jumps onto a bike and starts pedaling. And they start playing reruns of Mork and Mindy.
Yes.
Which, a little bit before our time, for sure.
It's from like the 70s, I think.
Yeah.
70s, maybe early 80s.
Yeah. But, Colin and I are definitely familiar with it to a certain extent, but man, what a
Flashback.
Yeah, but I started cracking up because I'm thinking like, okay, all these little French kids learn how to speak English from Robin Williams. It'd be funny to hear a bunch of like little kids talking like, what would you like? You know, like with Robin Williams inflection.
Yes.
Like that speech pattern really fast and like just all over the place.
Yeah. I liked this wholesome little moment that they had where all the kids were laughing and Daryl, he's like, no way! Like, he was excited about it. And it's probably been a while since he's been able to watch a show. Although they did have stuff at the Commonwealth that was a little bit more... Movies. Yeah, that was a little more uppity. But still, I'm sure living in this world, it's such a few and far between thing that it's like, wow, this is happening? This is insane.
Yeah.
And it's cute. I love seeing tough guys like Daryl when there's kids around, because the kids just like gravitate towards them, and we've seen how much of a badass Daryl can be, but then you have these little ones that are just snuggling up with them and stuff. It is so stinking cute. And you know how many like ovaries are exploding at this? But I think it's cute. And then it does seem that Daryl has a bit of a, oh crap, I really miss my people. Like, I'm wondering if he's thinking about maybe his own kids, like Judith and RJ, even though people are saying, you don't have children, do you? Mm-hmm. But, I mean, in a sense, he does. He's Uncle Daryl, and especially for Judith, they were so close.
Yeah. The last kicker.
Yeah. So I'm thinking he's really missing home, and where we paused it to talk about our little portion here, he just seems very emo laying on his bed. He's very upset.
Yeah. So
what do you think of the interaction that Daryl and Isabel had when they were on the bed?
It was good. Yeah, I don't know. It was like just them sleeping in the same bed. Now it's, you know, he offered to sleep on the floor, and don't know if they're setting up for a romantic. Yeah, I don't know. You know, like they kind of set certain things up with Daryl where he almost seems like he's gonna fall for somebody. I'm not saying that he's falling for Isabel, but there was just that little bit of a nod. But it could just be, hey, neither one of us have slept on a good bed in a while.
Sorry for the loud cars every now and then.
It could just be, you know, neither one of them has slept in a bed in a long time, and I think everybody's kind of past the whole needing. Yeah, like, yeah, I really don't care at this point. Just sleep in the bed with me. I really don't care. But she points out, like, do you think that the medicine's really going to help the teacher? And he says, no, but the truth can wait.
Yes, he throws it back in her face because earlier, in an earlier scene when they were walking, he wanted to tell Laurent about the donkey, and she's like, no, the truth can wait. And then I like that he threw it back to her. Yeah. That's going back to like the first episode where, what brought you here? A bunch of bad decisions. And then later on she said a bunch of good decisions for herself. So it's kind of interesting that that's been their kind of thing where they're throwing things back at one another in a way.
Yeah, and I think we kind of saw, like in these flashbacks, we're kind of seeing the good decisions that she's making.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, and well, real quick before we go on to the flashback that she had again, back to the day that everything went crazy, the scene where Isabel did ask Daryl when they were laying in bed, were you familiar with this program? Meaning the Mork and Mindy show. And he said that he and his brother used to watch it a lot growing up, and it would kind of take them away from pretty much their crappy childhood that they had. So it was kind of nice that they did have that bit of a flashback for him, and I wonder if that was
why he had sort of a dark moment.
Exactly. So
like, it's kind of doing the same thing for these kids that the show did for him when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Kind of transporting him away.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of it like that, but absolutely. And I was thinking, like I had said earlier, that maybe Daryl was then thinking, oh man, I really miss my people, and like Judith and RJ and stuff, but maybe it was that, and then thinking about his brother, because we all know how his brother was taken out of this world too, and
Mary Poppins.
Yeah, Mary Poppins, y'all. But it was a violent way that he was taken out too. But yeah, I like that he's also thinking about the kids, kind of thinking, wow, all these innocent kids, they're going through the same thing that I did. So then we're back at the flashback with Isabel, and I don't remember the guy's name yet.
Yeah.
And then her sister Lily. And they pull into a gas station, and they're talking about how they have to leave the city and stuff. And the sister is very sick at this point.
Well, yeah, she even throws up on the boyfriend.
Yes.
Which was...
Deserved,
but gross. I'm like, ugh, yeah.
And there's things, but there's spoilers, so I don't really want to talk about that spoiler until the following episode. So we'll wait to talk about that spoiler until the third until the next podcast, because just
Yeah.
in case you didn't watch the 3rd episode yet, I don't really want to talk about that spoiler. But it was pretty interesting because the boyfriend is definitely kind of saying, look, we really need to just drop Lily off somewhere. We're not going to take her with us. Where we're going is secluded. And he ends up being the one to say, it seems like she's pregnant, basically, is what he says. And he's like,
where we're going, they can't take care of kids.
Yeah, well, he said there's no baby hospital.
Right.
And Isabel is not going to have that, which
Yep.
I don't blame her. And she goes back to her skills, and she pickpockets the car keys out of his pocket, which was nice. And then he says he's going to make some calls, gets on the phone, and she gets in the car saying she's going to tell Lily about them basically leaving her somewhere and what the plan is. But that is not her plan.
No.
And she
How
drives
could you
off.
even ask that to somebody? Like,
I
we're
know.
just going to leave your sister here.
And especially how sick she is.
Yeah.
And did you see, though, his hand instinctually went to his back where he kept his gun?
Yeah.
So I don't know if he, for a second, thought of shooting out the tires or what the situation was, but he ended up letting her go. So,
Yeah.
Interesting.
The next scene we have is Daryl walking through the woods with Lou, and they're kind of talking about how she obviously knows he's not a priest.
Yeah,
But-
she's the leader, by the way, from the children.
Yeah, but he is a saint.
He is indeed.
I forgot about that little. I'm like, oh yeah. He's, any Boondock Saints fans?
Yes.
But yeah, clearly he's not a father, priest.
Yeah, he's definitely not a priest. That's okay. We still love him.
But Lou mentions, thanks to him, their teacher is going to get better, and Daryl makes a little.
Yeah, kind of like guilty
Well,
conscious a little
yeah.
bit. I think a little bit of a guilty conscience, but at the same time, maybe in a way, if he even thought of this at all, I don't know. Maybe he's justifying, well, maybe I'm at least giving the kids some hope.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that'll at least help him sleep at night. Because he's a good guy in general. It's not like
Oh,
Daryl's
yeah.
a bad guy at all. So it's not like he really,
Yeah.
needs to clear his conscience before he goes to sleep at night, but still. And then we go over and we're back to...
The school.
Yeah, we're back to the school and they're playing hide and seek. The poor kid, they're really picking on Laurent a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel bad for
I mean,
him.
it's man, oh man, it's hard to describe, but you could tell when somebody's just a little bit off, or he's just very naive, I think, and he believes what he says so fully, and the rest of the kids are just a little bit more cynical, maybe.
Maybe.
So they kind of see that, and they're like, oh wow, I can't believe this kid still believes all this stuff. But even hiding, he doesn't know how to really hide properly.
Yeah.
Because
The nuns always let him win, basically.
yeah, they sheltered him a lot.
It's sad, though, because a lot of it probably... The nuns did the best that they could, but they're all adults, too. So it's hard because Laurent didn't have any children his age to play with. Whereas all these kids, they're in a complete orphanage here, so they're all different age ranges, but they're pretty much all kids.
Yep, tough kids.
Yeah. So I feel bad for Laurent.
Oh yeah.
I think being on the road is going to be one of the most difficult things for him. And then they're picking on him a little bit because he keeps saying that he was told that his father died in a war fighting for the freedoms of Paris.
France.
Yeah, France. So we will find that out in the next episode.
Yeah.
But that's another thing, too. It's, why can't the kids just be like, oh, okay. Why do they have to dig into it so
Right.
deep, too?
Like, psh.
Like, that's not true. But, dude, you don't know.
I don't know, this world makes them cynical.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess. And then
But-
we jump back over to Isabel and her sister, and they find the ambulance on the side of the road.
Yeah, Lily's not doing so hot.
Yeah, Lily is not doing so well.
She thinks something's wrong with the baby. And they see a paramedic on the side of the road, so they decide to pull over. Hopefully they can help. But full of walkers. Like a clown car full of walkers.
Although they were all on the outside of the ambulance, but still. Yes. That is funny, though.
A lot of walkers.
A lot of walkers, you guys.
So many walkers.
That sucks, though, because it's so early on in the shitstorm that is currently happening that they don't know enough to stay away from what's happening right now.
Yeah. I don't know if Lily knew what was really going on. She knew that there was like a whole kerfuffle going on, but she sounded like she was...
Kerfuffle, I haven't heard that in a while.
She sounded like she was a little confused by what was going on with the people coming up. Like she didn't see a walker at this point, I don't think.
Well, that's another good point. Don't you think in the car that, unless she didn't want to stress her out, don't you think Isabel would be filling Lily in
Right.
on what the things that she saw? It's kind of like, look, I don't know what's happening yet, but stay away from these people. I don't know what they're doing, but from what I've witnessed, they're biting other people. I don't know what's happening, and I've seen people come back from the dead. It's crazy. So it's like, just stay away from these people. yeah, you might not want to freak her out more, but I feel like she's already freaked out to begin with.
Yeah.
May as well add a little bit more to the list, and then maybe protect her a little bit.
But that's where we're at.
Well,
Or
we
no,
go
no,
back
I'm sorry.
to we go back with Lou, the girl, Lou or Lau. That's the young girl. That's
Lou? I think it's Lou, but
maybe they're we're going back to the girl that guards the children, is the leader of the children, and they find that castle that they talked about, and they see that whole moat that's full of walkers.
yeah.
Dun dun dun. We see where the monastery comes into play,
Oh yeah.
or the convent, whichever you want to call it.
So Isabel takes her sister to the convent, where the sisters are there to take care of any issues that they might have.
Yeah. And that's also when we meet Sylvie, and she was younger at
Yeah.
the time too. She was probably about maybe like 8, 9, something like
Yeah,
that.
she was young.
Yeah, poor baby. I guess she was waiting for her parents to come and pick her up, and that's when the nuns were waiting at the gate, and they let Isabel and Lily in because they were waiting for Sylvia's parents.
And they have a little bit of a chat with Lily and Isabel. And they're talking about how their mother used to calm them down by sing Alouette.
Yeah, calm them down, yeah.
What did I say?
I thought you said come down. That's what I thought you
Calm
were.
them down. I'm a little stuffy.
That's good. But yeah, that was a cute little flashback. It's interesting, and again, spoiler for the following Daryl episode 3. There's a lot of heavy talking here and there about Laurent's father. And
Oh, yeah.
every time something is brought up about it, the subject changes. Because even Isabel asked Lily, well, who's the father? And
She
Lily
conveniently had a contraction of that, but I can't answer that question right now.
Right. Whether it was a real contraction or not, we don't know.
Yep.
But she avoided that question. And yeah, they're just talking, and then...
You remember that money that you owe me? Oh, God!
Convenient. Yeah, so then we're at Daryl and Lou, and they're looking for...
Supplies. They're looking for something. So they're looking at the moat and the drawbridge, and they're looking for a way to cross over. And she hands him some sort of spade. Looks like a hoe of some kind. Something for plowing the land, but it has a hook to it. And he tells her to look for, this will work, but if you could find a bigger one, that'd be even better. So she starts looking for a larger one, and he locks her in this closet. But it's kind of like, hey, could you get me a bucket of steam? It is more to protect her. He says that
Oh, God, yeah.
he works better on his own.
Later on in the episode, we find out, and she made a comment like, still think you work better on your own?
Mm-hmm.
But it's true. I could see that. I understand with certain tasks, and Daryl is a veteran in this world.
He also doesn't know how she works. Like,
right.
They haven't worked together before, so I could see that being a liability.
Yeah, that's true. A liability, but also she could have been a huge help to him, too.
Yeah.
But Daryl goes in, and he's looking around, trying to see if he can see anyone with, like, a sniper rifle or anything like that. And then he hears what sounds like a kid. I think he's saying, like, hey, asshole, let me out, or something like that.
Yep.
And so Daryl walks in, and thankfully didn't shoot the kid, and the kid didn't have a gun or anything like that to shoot Daryl.
Yeah.
And we find out that that kid belongs with the other grouping of kids, but he's just basically been held hostage there for, it seems like a couple weeks.
His name was Hedgehog.
Yeah, Hedgehog. Harrison, but I guess it translates to Hedgehog.
Well, I think that's what Daryl heard Harrison.
Yeah, and it even says on our screen, Harrison.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a different spelling than we're used to. Herisson.
Oh.
I'm used to it with it, H-A. So then there's like a bit of a shootout. Oh, and then... So then we're with Harrison and Daryl down in what looks like a root cellar. And Daryl...
Yeah, just before leaving the root cellar, gets shot at.
Yeah, and he's showing Harrison. He's like, do you know how to use this thing? So he leaves him with a gun just to kind of keep the other guy occupied. And Daryl scoots out, and he finds his way up, and then he's silently coming up on the guy. Yeah.
Which, surprisingly, like the guy didn't realize that he was coming for him. Like,
yeah.
he saw Daryl go into the building.
Yeah, what else would he be doing?
Like, all right, I don't have to worry about it, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing.
Right. And then Daryl goes up and did a little sneak and
Sneaky sneak.
and got up behind, I guess his name is Gaines.
Oh, yeah. His last name was Gaines.
So they found him. Well, Daryl found him. And instantly, I'm a patriot. Man, this guy keeps on going on about how he's an American. Like, geez, dude.
Like, anybody cares at this point.
Honestly. and you're kind of making us out all to be bad guys. like we just like discard everything else, but as long as you know we're an American, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, what the crap? It was a pretty interesting interaction there, and Daryl's like, I'm not your brother, I don't care. And it was interesting because Gaines keeps saying that he has family back home, and he has a wife and 4 kids, and he just wants to get back
to
home.
Texas.
Yeah. And Daryl's basically telling him that everything's gone. And I read an article, or at least skimmed an article, stating that maybe at one point, we're not sure if it was, well, there was an article that stated that there might have been, in that time frame between when The Walking Dead ended and when Daryl came over to France, that maybe he met up with Morgan somehow and learned of the Midwest being destroyed too.
Ooh.
Because I don't think Daryl was ever over that far.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, but he heard about it somehow. So maybe he somehow got in touch with Morgan at some point. But that's interesting. And then he takes him hostage and they go down. And was that the next scene where they're walking across the drawbridge with the...
Yeah.
This frustrates me.
What, the wheel? Oh.
Just the whole setup of him walking. They have Harrison in the front and then Daryl. And they're kind of guiding the horse with the carriage with all the supplies in it.
Yeah, it looked like oxygen tanks and things like that.
Yeah, and then they had Gaines tied up in the back on a rope, and it's just... I felt like that wasn't the greatest way to go about having him as a prisoner, because he's kind of a shady guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to do anything to get himself
Seems
out of
Weasley.
it. Yeah, Weasley, exactly. I was looking for a different word besides shady. Another Weasley.
I was going to say, not Ron Weasley.
No, they're good. They're a good family.
Yeah.
But... then, as we all saw, the wheel broke, and then it looks like oxygen tanks started falling down into the moat and stuff, and then...
Gaines is taunting them. He's like, yeah, see what you get.
Yep.
Blah, 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 blah.
Now, this was a really stupid move on Daryl's part, where he told Harrison to keep an eye on Gaines, and, like, if he does anything stupid, just to shoot him. Meanwhile, Daryl puts his gun at the back of that carriage.
He easily could have put the gun somewhere less... dangerous.
Absolutely, even up closer to where Harrison was, and Harrison could have kept an eye on that gun. And also, I was thinking, we don't know how Harrison is, and Daryl doesn't know how Harrison is, and if he's skilled with that gun or not. And you're gonna give a gun to a kid that could possibly have a trigger finger because he's scared, and you're putting Daryl in the crossfire of that.
Yeah.
So you're basically putting it's Harrison with the gun, then Daryl, and then the inmate. Well, the Gaines. So it's like, what the crap?
I think sometimes they have, like, a really cool idea. Like, a moat full of walkers. That's a really cool idea. But then they'll, like, all right, well, we have this moat full of walkers. Somebody's got to go in there. Somehow, at some point, like, we got to cause something to happen. And usually it's something stupid.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. They need to find a more organic way to incorporate these really cool scenarios. I'm not a writer, though.
No, I understand what you're saying, though, and especially just the way that they did this one didn't feel like it was up Daryl's alley with his character, because I feel like he's smarter than that, than to leave the gun very close to a Weasley guy.
If anything, they could have just had, like, the kids say, yeah, you know what, we're gonna lower Gaines into his own moat, and then have him get torn up. 'Cause that would have been a way of incorporating the moat.
Yeah, well...
And then they would have seen... that brother.
Yeah. Well, because then Daryl did say that they were going to leave Gaines alive because they wanted to take him back to Lou, and then she would decide what to do with him. Yeah. I mean, she was, as far as Daryl knew at that point, still locked up in that shed, so he could have just gone and gotten Lou and decided kind of then, or had a different way to transport him.
Yeah.
Either way, I just think it was a really bad setup, and I feel like that was kind of out of character for Daryl.
Yeah, I agree.
And then they had their kerfuffle, which I'm going to use that word. That's the word of the day, kerfuffle. Kerfuffle. They had their little kerfuffle, and then they both ended up going overboard.
Can you hear Daryl using the word kerfuffle? I don't need to get into kerfuffles.
But this was the one that...
What, the kerfuffle?
This was the one that if you listen to our previous podcast about the episode 1, I was saying that I was, like, not jumping around, but I was definitely getting nervous when I first watched this episode, because I didn't know what they were going to do with Daryl. I didn't know if they were going to kill him off. I mean, you never know. They could kill anybody off at any time, I guess. And then just the way they write different things, they could kind of handle it, I guess. Might have a lot of ticked off fans. Yeah. But I was nervous. I was very nervous. And then they had Gaines hanging because he had... the rope around his wrist.
Yeah.
And then again, he started getting...
Get off me, I'm an American!
Yeah, like, Like the
Like they
walkers care. What the crap? Poor Daryl's eardrums.
Yeah.
Like, how does he
can
have
hear
any...
anything
Exactly.
now.
How does he have any hearing left with all the different explosions, all the different gunfire, and everything that he's gone through?
Maybe that's why he likes the crossbow, because it's so quiet. Well, I mean, obviously it's so quiet.
Right, yeah.
That's also why we like it.
But it could very well be because it saves his eardrums.
Yeah.
But after this, how is he not bleeding from his ears? It's crazy.
So thankfully, Lou got out of the shed.
Somehow.
Do we know who saved her?
It looked like the brother. It looked like that brother of the one that's in the
That's
remote.
right. Yeah. He
And
followed them.
It was interesting too because I don't know if this was a little callback to Michonne, but they had
hood.
Yes, when they had the shed door open, it was just backlit and it was just kind of silhouette-y, and it was like, oh my god, that's almost like a mini Michonne.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but you're right.
Mm-hmm. I love Michonne. But yeah, thank God that they were able to get out, and then they were able to rescue Daryl, and they threw the rope down for him to grab, and then they had him hooked to the horse, and thankfully they had a horse and could pull him up, because really the kids were small. Not that Daryl's that large, but they might have had a struggle to get him up out of there. But all I could think of too was, you guys are really putting a lot of faith into this rope, because what if that rips when it's...
Who knows how old that rope is?
Exactly.
Who knows how it's been stored, etc., etc.
Well, that's what I was thinking too when Daryl got that little shovel thing and used that to cross that scary moat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't know how this thing was taken care of. It's all rusted and stuff. Like, once you put body weight on it, that thing can rip. Or, not rip, but break. But I guess we look too into...
Yeah.
I guess we look too into the different...
scenarios.
Yeah. Maybe we nitpick too much with certain things. You gotta just enjoy the story.
For the most part, I think we do. But then, like, afterwards, we're, like, thinking about it, like, yeah, that was pretty, like, why?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But that's when I like when Lou kind of threw it back in Daryl's face. Like, do you still think you're better on your own?
Yeah.
Because they totally just saved his ass, for sure. And then I feel bad because then that younger brother, he spots his older brother.
Yeah.
Down in the moat. Yeah.
And Lou was going to take him out, but she couldn't. Well,
she was going to. She was struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think Daryl was like, I'll just take it.
Yep.
I'll take one for the team. Because Daryl's done it so many times in the past. Why not now?
Mm-hmm. We see Daryl and the kids get back from their mission, and everything seems really good until Sylvia comes out and alerts us that I think it was Lady Dumont.
Yeah, the teacher.
The teacher is either passing or has passed. Then we go up to a scene where Lou and Daryl are talking over Lady Dumont. I hope it was Lady Dumont, otherwise I'm just screwing this whole thing up. But
you can just go with the teacher.
Yeah, with the teacher. And he admits that the meds were never going to help. Lou was like, oh no, I was too late. But, yeah, Daryl says it wasn't going to do anything.
Yeah, I kind of just used you for the horse.
Yeah.
Which, that's hard, but I am glad that he kind of came clean. And of course, it's Daryl. He is a good guy, so he wasn't doing it necessarily maliciously. He was doing it because he did say earlier, they can't make that trek on foot. So they do need a horse.
I mean, what was he going to tell her? Like, the meds aren't going to do anything for her anyway, so...
Yeah.
He needed the horse. Yeah, I get it.
And then Daryl says that he would do the deed of taking out the teacher, like, and so she doesn't turn. And Lou says that she can handle it. Yeah. So I hope she does realize how quickly it happens, though, and that she wouldn't wait too long. But it did seem like Daryl was kind of keeping an eye on her a little bit.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like she waited too long, because the next scene, they're at her funeral.
That's true, yeah.
Which is kind of nice. Yeah, they have...
Yeah, it looked like a beautiful little ceremony thing that they had for her.
All the candles. They had her picture up.
And her glasses. It was a really cute little... I'm trying to think of the word for it.
Ceremony?
No, not a ceremony.
Memorial?
Yeah, just like shrine, kind of.
Send off.
I think shrine is too hardcore of a word, but just like, kind of like her headstone. Like a cemetery kind of thing.
And they all send her off with a nanu.
Yes, how cute was that? That was really cute.
Yeah.
Which, if you remember, that was from Mork and Mindy. Then the next scene, we're leaving.
They have a buggy set up.
Yep.
They got the horse attached to it. Daryl,
Isabel,
and what's her name? Sylvia are ready to go, and they're trying to get Laurent back into the cart to go, but he doesn't want to leave now.
Yeah.
He's starting to grow fond of the rest of the kids. Even though, it seemed like they were really having a rough time with it for a little bit. But yeah, I think he's starting to warm up to having friends like that around.
And it did seem like they were warming up to him, at least the young girl, because Laurent did try to comfort the girl, saying, your teacher's with the angels now, just like my mom or something.
Yeah.
So that was sweet, at least. But he's having a time. He doesn't really want to leave, and Isabel tells him that they have to go, and he says he wants to stay. But then it's interesting that he only listened when Sylvia said, "No, we're leaving. Come on," kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm only saying it's interesting because it's like I think that Laurent sees Isabel as the mother figure and the kind of the stricty one, whereas Sylvia, she's also like a mother figure, but maybe a little bit more chill, or he's closer to her maybe. There's a bit, not to say there's a bit more of a bond, but there's a different kind of bond.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe he views Isabel as just being like a rule setter and you can't do this, you can't do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but then but then Sylvia gets him to leave and they're walking out, and as the kids are waving goodbye to everybody and they're closing the gate, man, those kids, they set up their fortress to look pretty scary, so hopefully it'll help and it'll keep people away.
A lot of dead skulls and
spikes.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. And then I think then we go back to Laurent being born.
Yeah, so Lily was bit at the ambulance, and now we're finally seeing her kind of, I don't know, she seemed like she was in rough shape even before she got bit.
She did, and actually
I wonder if she would have survived had she not been bit.
It was a pretty rough pregnancy, and it seems like she was either hiding it for 7 months or she was 7 months pregnant. So if she was only 7 months pregnant, that's a preemie.
Yeah.
So that's pretty scary. That's pretty scary that they didn't have any like machines or anything like that, or actual genuine doctors there to help with the baby.
Yeah.
And going back a couple scenes when they first get to the monastery, they do say that she must have been bit by one of those things out there.
Yeah.
And so they did see that she was bitten. Ooh, it was a bite.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's rough. We're at the childbirth scene and she doesn't make it.
Yeah, she was pushing, and then gone.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then the priest, he goes over and it looks like he sanitizes his hands. I think he's knowing that they're going to have to just cut the baby out of the woman.
Yeah.
So, oof, that's hard. And it makes me wonder, have they dealt with any walkers at this point? Because they're very calm about all this.
Yeah, they're very secluded. Well, obviously, it seems like after she passes and Isabel is walking out with Laurent, that he thinks that she's possessed.
That's true.
Because he gets a cross and he starts praying over her.
It was interesting, though, because then Mother Superior, that's when we really see her. She comes over as Isabella's holding her sister's hand, and she's just sitting there with the sister's hand in her own hand, and she starts to move, and she's like, oh my god, she's moving.
Yeah.
And then that's when we see that she did turn, and that's so scary how quickly it can happen.
Especially when you're that close to them.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Physically and emotionally, you know?
But especially it's super early on in the story, or it's super early on in the apocalypse.
Yeah.
So they're not knowledgeable and everything yet. Like, oh, don't stay too close.
Again, though, Isabella seems really sharp.
She does.
She seems like she saw that her sister had turned, and instead of, like, going in for a hug and, like, trying to, like, oh, I'm so sorry, you know, I feel like other characters would have.
And leaving their neck completely exposed or something.
She kind of was in shock. She knew that she wasn't there anymore and just sort of started backing away from her. So, yeah, it was an intense scene.
And Mother Superior comes over with...
Laurent.
No, but before that, she comes over with, like, straps to strap Lily down to the stretcher, which is crazy. So I'm also wondering, what do they do at this monastery or convent normally that they have this whole medical wing? All these straps. No, but really, what do they do here that they have...
What?
Shut up. You're turning this into something it is not, sir. No, but how do they have, like, a whole medical wing set up? It's pretty interesting. And that they're so medically trained, too.
I don't know. It sounds right that, like, a monastery would be pretty self-sustaining. Like, I think that's kind of how they were.
Maybe.
I could be wrong.
And I wonder, I'm going to have to do some research on this too, because I wonder if it's also one of those things where women that end up getting pregnant can go there in a seclusion kind of thing.
Yeah.
And ask for forgiveness kind of thing if they got pregnant before marriage and all that stuff that goes along with religion. I don't mean any offense to anyone, so don't take it that way. But I just wonder if that's something. Maybe they have it built in, so that way if there are mothers that come there, they can deliver the babies there in kind of seclusion too.
Yeah.
I'll have to research that. So then the baby gets cut out of Lily and is handed to Isabel. and
She
she's
seems like
definitely
she's
in
in
shock.
shock.
For sure. We're sure in shock. And she's walking out, and then there's a bunch of other nuns surrounding them, and Sylvia's there too. But they're all like, you can see themselves, like, you can see them blessing themselves as she walks
holy
by
crap.
with the baby. And then she goes to this statue, and it's Saint Laurent.
Saint Laurent.
So that's where the name came from.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking too, I'm like, oh, that is sad that there was so much commotion going on that Isabel couldn't even ask Lily, like, oh, what are some names that you have picked out? Is there anything that you've thought of for this? But there was so much going on that was like the furthest thing from their mind.
Yeah.
We were curious, so we Googled what Saint Laurent is the patron saint of.
Yeah, he's often known as Saint Lawrence, and he's the patron saint of school children, poor people, cooks, and comedians.
Yeah, so we're like, cooks and comedians? Like, the other ones that made sense were like, cooks and comedians? What does that mean?
So after being martyred, he suffered a pain for a long time. So St. Lawrence was burned alive, and at one point, supposedly, he declared cheerfully, I'm done on this side, you can turn me over.
Damn.
So, yeah.
What a badass.
That was pretty sweet.
Can you read the rest of what was said there, though? He said cheerfully, turn me over.
Yeah. From St. Lawrence derives his patronage of cooks, chefs, and comedians.
So I guess the chef thing, because he was done on this side, and then turn him over, and I guess the comedian thing, because he made a little jokey joke while he's being killed.
Good for him.
It is good for him. It's kind of like us. We make a little jokey joke, no matter what the situation.
Yeah.
Makes life a little bit easier.
Sometimes you just need it, man.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that was the last scene. Oh, wait, no, we went and we found...
Ooh, yeah, we totally forgot about that.
Yeah, so then one of the next scenes, we have Capo. I'm going to say Capo. We never really learned his pronunciation.
Yeah.
But we see him back at the convent, and he's wandering around the grounds, and he's kind of exploring, and he finds that room that I talked about with the map on the wall. So he found the office.
And the tape recorder.
And he found the tape recorder, yep. So I'm thinking that Capo found that map and is kind of assuming, as most people would, this must be where they're headed.
Yep.
And so he has a bit of a plan, at least a little bit of a plan going on. And then he, of course, listens to the tape recorder and hears Daryl's recording of, I'm Daryl Dixon, I'm from the Commonwealth. And
American.
Yeah. Like Gaines. We'll just keep talking about how he's American. I wonder if they went with Gaines as the last name because of Gaines, that serial killer in
Ed
America.
Gaines?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I wonder if that's a little thing.
Look up Ed Gaines.
Oof.
Whew.
Crazy. Serial killers are insane, obviously.
Yeah. Well, he inspired, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Silence of the Lambs. I think there was another movie that claims that they got a lot of inspiration from Ed Gaines. And the crazy thing is, like, he lived the rest of his life in an insane asylum.
Wow.
Like, they didn't...
Kill him?
Yeah, they didn't kill him.
Wow.
He grew to old age. Which, I mean, if he was mentally ill, for sure. Like, just crazy.
I don't know.
Crazy stuff.
But yeah, I think that was the end of this episode.
Yeah.
Overall, that was a really good episode. I really liked it.
Love the beginning.
Me too. I was just going to say, this was our second time watching it, and I remembered it a little different. I thought we did have longer sequences of Isabel's backstory, but I forgot that they were just sprinkled in the way that they were sprinkled in. But I really enjoyed it. I'm one of those Walking Dead fans that I would love show after show after show, as long as they don't completely kill the series, because sometimes the writing can be a little but I would genuinely love huge backstories for so many of my favorite characters, like especially Aaron. I loved Aaron. Like, just a lot of the people at Alexandria that we met, and just in general, there's a lot of story that could still be told, and I really like the beginning stories of where everybody was when the world went crazy.
Yeah.
This was definitely up there with one of my favorites, and especially because it wasn't just in America. It was in another area.
Yeah.
Now that it's towards the end of our episode, we'll ask a couple questions to kind of get you guys involved a little bit more if you feel like commenting. Overall, what did you think of the episode? Did you like it? Are you liking the Daryl show? Is it still a little too early to tell? All that stuff. Are you a fan of them coming out with more Walking Dead related shows? And would you like to hear more backstory to some of our favorite characters? Because obviously we just met Isabel last episode in the first one, so we don't have too much history with her yet. But did you enjoy learning a bit about her backstory?
I'm already digging her.
I'm liking her a lot.
Yeah.
She's awesome, and she's very smart, so I'm liking that.
And for anybody who hasn't looked ahead...
Or watched ahead.
It might be pretty obvious to a lot of people, but does anybody have any guesses on who the daddy is of Laurent?
And we'll be talking about that in the next podcast, because that's when they kind of reveal some info to us, the viewer.
Oh, yeah.
If there's anything else that you guys want to add, or you want to ask us a question, Feel free to find us on Instagram. We're Dead Talk Podcast _ on there, so you can find us.
Thanks for tuning in to our Dead Talk podcast as we discussed The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 1, Episode 2, titled Alouette. Tune in to our next podcast where we're going to discuss The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 1, Episode 3, titled Paris sera toujours Paris, which translates into English as Paris will always be Paris.
We hope you'll tune into the next one.
Bye.